So Jen Berman, go ahead and take us away, and let's talk about what growth and capacity looks like inside the Estacada School District.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk about this. If you've driven around Estacada at all, you know that there's houses going up like crazy, and mostly within our River Mill boundaries. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on our elementary schools to start us off, because we are growing, like we are already full, to say that, at River Mill. And so I'm actually going to throw some numbers out at you today. And as I do that, know that those are numbers that are a roll up of current student population and just guessing what that kindergarten class is going to be. It's not necessarily taking into account all those new homes that are coming in that will also feed into the schools and add to the numbers that we're talking about tonight. So I would say the numbers we're talking about are on the low side, if that helps you paint a little bit of a picture as we go through this. So we are at capacity, and what's going to happen if we stay status quo and we just keep our buildings the way they are, where River Mill is kindergarten through 5th grade and Clackamas River is kindergarten through 5th grade and our middle school is 6th through 8th grade. We have a big capacity problem and a big difference between the schools that's going to cause problems between what we can offer one group of students and what we can offer another group of students. So if we were to stay status quo, we would have River Mill being at the capacity of 498 students. That doesn't include their pre-K program. And like I said, that also doesn't include all those homes that are about finished and about ready to be filled. And then Clackamas River, because they have a really big group of 5th graders this year that are moving up to 6th grade, they're actually going to go down to 402 students, which leaves almost a 100 student gap between the two students. We don't have enough classrooms in River Mill right now to fill all of that. And then Clackamas River is going to actually have some empty rooms. So here's some things that we could do to address that. None of them, as Superintendent Carpenter said, is just clear and easy. And of course, why wouldn't we do that? They all have some sort of pros and cons to each one of them. So I just want to talk you through a little bit of them. If we stay to status quo, River Mill would not have enough room for their kids. We would have to start limiting PE and music that's offered right now at least 2 days a week, if not more. We would have to start limiting the opportunities for kids to get to have those specials because we don't have enough classes for them. Where Clackamas River students would continue to get those specials at least 2 times a week, if not more. So now we're starting to take something where we've been really good about, it doesn't matter what school your child is in, they're getting the same education. That starts to change. So you ask, well, why don't we just change the boundaries then? We could do that. That's one option. We could look at the boundaries. We could move groups of people, but I'm telling you, people don't like to find out that their housing development now has to move schools. And all of a sudden we get requests for grandfathering them in and siblings and babysitters. And we wouldn't be able to grant those requests. We would have to move kids because we have to fill the other building in order to make this work. So that doesn't always come as easily as it sounds. Students who once could walk to school might now have to bus to school or walk further to school. So there's a lot of complications into just moving boundaries. And that also might solve the problem for 1 or 2 years. But as we start to grow, we might have to change the boundaries again. So that's one part of a complicated system. Another look that we've talked about in the past, but haven't really had a major reason to make the change, which now we might, is looking at creating one of our buildings, turning it into a kindergarten through 2nd grade, turning another elementary building into a 3rd through 5th grade. That, again, these are just general low numbers, but that would create at least only a 50 student difference, with allowing both buildings to be a little more equal and allowing some room for growth in both areas, which we know will probably happen sooner than later. With that means kids are changing schools. We have one more transition, but also there's some positives to that of our kids get to go K through 12 with the same cohort of students. They don't have to mix social groups when they enter middle school together. There's also some benefits for our teachers where we would have some more focused, age-appropriate programs for a campus that's K2 versus one that's K5, because we would have all our kindergarten teachers, for example, in one building where we could utilize some of our resources and our specialists in different ways. So there's some pros and cons to that. Again, students are going to have to move, teachers are going to have to move. It's not an easy decision. We had also talked about Eagle Creek. That comes up a lot. You know, one thing is, why don't you just open that third elementary school back up? And that comes at a huge cost that we are not necessarily prepared to do right now. You know, we have Summit Charter School in there, which is a partner for us. They support some of our programs. We support some of their programs. We benefit financially from having them as part of our district. And if we were to turn that into a school, we would not only lose that partnership with that as an option for a lot of our kids, but we have to then bring on new staff, new teachers, new custodians, new cooks. And that comes at a very big cost that could result in us having to cut teachers or do other things that might not be as friendly as some of the current systems we have in place that are working really well. And so that is definitely an option, probably on the lower end of the list, I would say. The other piece is we did have a bond package plan where we moved 7th and 8th grade to the high school and we turned the middle school into a different school. We could look at doing some of that without the financial support that would need to happen in those buildings, which could cause some problems. It might not be age appropriate buildings because we wouldn't be able to do some of the infrastructure pieces that we needed to do. But we could technically maybe move some kids. Again, a lot of have to come into those decisions, a lot of community feedback and things, because those are a lot more complex than the first two pieces that I talked about. So my point is, there is some options. Not one of them is clear. Not one of them comes without some complications. There's some pluses and benefits to some of these moves that could help us down the road. And there's some where we would just have to take a chance and maybe it's just a Band-Aid. But I think where we're at today is that we're at a point where we have a committee ready to do the work, but we paused that committee because we wanted to bring it here to find out if you feel like, as parents and community members, that this is a big enough deal for your student and the capacity of their classrooms and their buildings, and wanting us to be able to offer them the best education possible, that you're saying, yes, bring that committee together, look at the data, look at the pros and cons of all our different options and decide something. That's what we want to know. Or are you telling us, don't touch it, let's wait till it's a serious problem and we now have 5 portables in front of Rivermill full of students that also cost us an extreme amount of money that we might not have needed to do. Yeah. So we have some options here, but we're asking tonight for your opinion. We're going to put out a survey later on to let us know, should we just continue status quo and figure out just some Band-Aid type pieces, or should we bring a committee together and look at some real options that would mean there's some change that's going to have to happen. There's going to be some growing pains with those changes, but I hope you trust us enough that we'll go through the process. We'll look at the data, we'll make decisions that are best for our students, and we'll be really transparent about the decision along the way.